Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one. One mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett, is coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. So nice to be with you again.
It's lovely to be with you again. And we have a really interesting show today. Today we are talking about channeling other energies versus channeling yourself. So there's different ways to access information as consciousness, and Jan and I have completely different experiences about it, as usual. So it's going to be a very lively conversation.
Definitely. And if you're going to be calling in, please, at number 1-844-390-8255. And it's always good to do that in those first 10 minutes before we go to commercial break, because afterwards we can get involved. So
I want to be and I want to be clear about that this is the listener call-in number. I'm presuming that you're listening right now online. But if you are catching us live and you want to come and join the conversation, call 844-390-8255. It's not the number to call and just listen on. It's actually the one that goes right into the studio to talk to us. Right. And as Janet just said, is call us now. Call us now, because this is the time to get in on the conversation. Once we go past the commercial and Janet takes us into heart space, it's kind of strange to try to connect us. The ship has already left the dock.
Yeah, really. Yeah. So what do we want them to know this week?
This week and every week, I want them to know, the collective us, is that we have a website. It is www.consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. And you can go there to listen to our podcasts, to access your website, Janet, and my website. You can also see our most recent blogs, and you can see the meetups that we have. Janet has hers in Portland, and I have mine around the Puget Sound in Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma, University Place, Lakewood, and Olympia. And then also all about our sessions. And what's some other good things there? Well, you can
get us on Facebook.
Yes, you can find us on Facebook. Janet Barrett on Facebook, Joan Marjorie Newcomb on Facebook, and the show is on Facebook, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We are also on Twitter. It's at Joan and Janet, and then my Twitter account is at Joan Newcomb. And then you can subscribe to us on YouTube, and Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet's on YouTube, and I am on YouTube. Joan M. Newcomb is on YouTube. We are very busy girls.
We are. And we have an offer we want to give them this time for Labor Day special. What is it, Joan?
Yes. So it is a Labor Day special. There's a lot going on. Actually, there's a lot just going on in general. We are in the midst of Mercury retrograde, so communication is going backwards and stuff. The eclipse is tomorrow, so people are experiencing really jolting, sudden changes. There's been like 3 major earthquakes around the world in the last week, over 6.8 type earthquakes. If you are having an earthquake in your life, if you are experiencing major changes, or maybe you're on the verge of a huge change and you're just experiencing all the overwhelm and frustration, we would like to give you a free email session. So email us your specific question, your first name and your location. And Janet, you were saying that it's also helpful to know the context so that you don't be something specific, not a vague question, right?
Yeah. It's whatever, however people are experiencing their stuff. And it's just, we don't need to know the story and, what we do need to know is a little context. Just what state are you in with this question? And are you feeling something in particular? And we'll look at them and we'll get back to you and see see what we can offer you, which is interesting because it fits in with our show today. We're talking about channeling ourselves, channeling other energies.
Well, wait, I'm not done yet with that.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm not done with that because my response will be different. I will answer your question specifically. It is helpful to know if it's relationship, in which case I'll need to know the first two names, your first name and their first name. If you're having trouble with real estate, I need to know the house number. If you are having trouble with money, or if you're up for a job interview, let me know the name of the company. So I need some specifics like that to be able to look in and give you some real specific answer. If you would like to take us up on our free offer, it is good between now and September 7th, and email us at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. There wasn't enough room for conversations in that email. So it's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com, and we will give you a free email session.
Yeah, it's good way to get some new input. And we also want to remind you about our free monthly conference call. And the next one is going to be September 15th. That's always the third Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. Pacific. And we always have a wonderful time. It's very personal. Whoever's on that line. And it's lovely to connect with people across the country and really look at building skills, creating states, and working what it is that you're noticing about life and how all of us can together share in that space. We had a wonderful time last time. We always have a wonderful time.
It was great. Yes, and we're getting more and more people, but it's still a small, intimate group, and it is an opportunity for you guys to talk to us directly and to feel up close and personal, because you take us into heart space, and we are reaching out to anywhere from like 300 to 15,000 people here around. And so if you want to feel this energy in a closer container, that's a great thing to get to our conscious conference call. And information about that is on our website as well, www.consciousconversationswithjoan with Joan and Janet.
And you've got an event coming up.
I do. It is, I connected with another meetup group up in Seattle. It's called Psychic Awakening Seattle is the meetup group. And I am going to be offering a workshop there, Deeper Consciousness Tools for Transformation. So if you are feeling strange shifts and changes going on and you want to know what is going on and what to do about it, we're in a time of huge transformation, and consciousness is accelerating and expanding, and we are feeling this collectively and personally. And you might not have the language to explain what's going on. You might see it showing up in your life as things breaking down, health, relationships, work, and more. Well, we need to upgrade our practices and techniques, because we've gone from spiritual dial-up to Wi-Fi. And I will give you information about that, and you will get some solid techniques for how to anchor in your body during these turbulent times, and to shift between parallel universes and some other magical stuff, actually really consciousness technique stuff to navigate this change and be in a much more sort of masterful space of consciousness. So that is September 10th. It's from 1 to 3. It's at Psychic Awakenings. It's on Queen Anne in Seattle, 700 Warner in Queen Anne in Seattle.
So they can go to your website or our website, and it'll all be posted there.
Right. It is going to be there.
Got it. So, well, we've got just a minute here before we go to our break or so. What are we going to talk about today, John? We got so much on the plate here.
Did we slide right through that? No, we talked. Okay, so channeling other energies versus channeling yourself. And so, Janet, actually, you actually were a channeler in the past. And what did you do?
God, I don't remember.
That's because it wasn't you. What did the beings do through your body?
Well, over the course, okay, I'm going to confess, I'm going to be 62 at the end of the month, September 25th. You can send me birthday wishes, everybody. Just so everybody's noticing. Over the course of this long involvement I've had with being in a physical space, I've done many different things, and I'm glad there's been an evolutionary process for myself. And at one time, I used to channel an entity who was a gatekeeper, basically, and, download information and do all that. And, I've been fortunate to have just a number of different experiences. And some of it could have been very wearing. And since I process everything through the body, it can get very wearing. And so I've really learned to appreciate just being open to information and being as consciousness and allowing for information and being able to pull information from everywhere. And so I enjoy people who can, who just channel or mediumship or these different skills. But it's how each of us needs to be able to know we can do that and get our answers. And that's more where my focus is.
And I have a completely opposite perspective of that in 30 seconds or less, which is that has been a very powerful way for people to get information in the past, and it's been a powerful tool or a bridge for people to realize that there is information from the non-physical. And I believe now that you are, not now, but we've always been consciousness informed, but as consciousness informed, you have more access now to the cosmic internet because you are the cosmic internet. So you can actually channel yourself. And so
you're referring to you as everyone. Right?
Each individual that I'm talking to, and you too, Janet, Janet, you can channel yourself.
Yes, right.
And so there's a lot more to do that, but we are sliding into a commercial break, and I will continue being on my soapbox when we get back. So we have to stop for a commercial break, but stay tuned because we're talking about channeling.
And what that means in these
and channeling yourself in a state of grace.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan. I'm along here with Janet, and we are talking about channeling other energies versus channeling yourself.
Yeah, all of that. That's what's interesting about life and consciousness. Energies in all kinds of forms. Some of us like angels, some of us like divas, there's all kinds of dead people. I don't think anything really, it's all about frequencies and vibrations anymore for me, right?
Well, and so how I would say that is that if you think our physical form is created by our focus as consciousness, and it is blueprinted for our unique frequency. And when you channel, you are allowing a different frequency into your body. Okay. And what ends up happening a lot of the time is it's a frequency that is not necessarily harmonious with your form. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that I also see that the individual being does not connect to its own body afterwards. And, you know, I would say that, you know, the inside of your body would look like a New York cab. You know, and a lot of people who've channeled over the past have had, physical problems, you know, a lot of severe physical illnesses. Now, I know that Esther Hicks doesn't do it in the way that it used to be. In the early days when I went to her presentations, I mean, my head would drop to my chest and I'd feel like leaving my body because she brought the beings through. She doesn't do that anymore. It's a much more gentle connection. But when you give your body over to out-of-body beings, then it is like, you know, letting people rent your house. And a rental looks different than a house that you own. So that is that has been my prejudice about it. And also my focus is on teaching people how to occupy their own bodies. So when you yourself as consciousness in your own form, you can channel yourself and you're channeling your own highest wisdom, your own answers. You are the cosmic internet. You have that information now. And that's what I see going on planet-wise is everybody has accelerated up to that level of awareness and everybody has that potential for their own information. They don't need to get it from, you know, it's validating to hear things from Abraham or Bashar or whatever. It's validating, but you can do it yourself.
Yeah, no, and I think there's all kinds of, we come out of all these different traditions and in our own experience, and some of us are present well, some of us are not, you know, and so there's a vehicle, the body serves as a vehicle, and it's just your relationship to it. You can either be more present or less present, and there are no rights and wrongs, there's just the toll that it kind of takes. It's what you're describing when you're not present, and you have these different frequencies that are running through this form, and you've got to navigate that and how we do that. So we're encouraging people to, whatever your experiences are, just how do you keep in harmony with yourself? And whether you're talking to ghosts or inviting some other presence. And I think...
Well, so there's a difference between talking to ghosts, because I talk to ghosts.
Right.
So there's a difference between having a conversation with a deva or an angel or a ghost and then leaving your body and letting them operate your body. Right. There's a difference.
That's
what I'm talking about. And I'm really curious about how my opinion may change once you bring us into heart space.
Yeah. We're putting it all out there, everybody. So let's see about doing that and see what happens. Because this is what's exciting about being live with you, and this is what's exciting about being alive. So let's take a few moments here and just let go of whatever today seems to be about. And just come into yourself, into noticing your heart, your physical heart. And whatever part of you is busy doing whatever, that part's okay. This is the part we want. There we go. And just be appreciative of the breath, appreciative of the beat, appreciative that you are alive and grateful. There we go. Let's all bring that in. And you'll notice I've tended to let go of directional cues, right? Because Joan was really good about bringing our awareness that we serve as placeholders in consciousness, and did that have to have a direction to it? Because consciousness is everywhere. So, in just bringing your awareness to your heart, there you go. And just feel that deepening. And then notice the second meaning of heart, which is the emotional terrain. So your emotions, and be grateful you have them. Think of how bored you'd be if you didn't. And they're the flavors and colorations. And so be in a neutral place here with it. You have more than one. You have several. You have millions and myriads of them all operating. And just what comes to mind. You can tag it. It's all right. Just don't be attached. Just notice it. And what it'd be like to just relax it. And on the relaxation, there we go. We're going to go to the third essence, core essence of all, the third meaning of heart. This is the field of unified consciousness, heart-centered awareness. We have many different terms out there. We have the 0-point field in science, and we have maybe God in another. I don't know. We have all these different traditions. They call this space all something, but it's all the same thing. So whatever your language is, just let it go. And this is the place where you and I are one, where there is no body, just the bits and pieces, the photons of light, the biophotons, a little bit of matter, where it's resonances and frequencies and information. And that information is stories and how that all fits into patterns. And this is a place where you start to feel the wiggle. You just feel the softening in the body. And with certain kinds of trainings, you might be more aware than not of that wiggle. There we go. And this is part of the field of what this show is about. It's the field of potential. And it's before it's become something, the label of energy. And just notice what it's like to invite yourself to feel the wiggle. Where everything isn't quite what you thought it was. And how that can be okay. We're inviting yourself to allow yourself to play. And life out there and in here can be very serious. And this is where we understand and appreciate that we'll all dance lightly. That's what consciousness does. And that's really going to a deep place there. And we like that. All right, Miss Joan, what you noticing?
What I was noticing as we got deeper and deeper into this heart space is it reminded me of deep sea diving.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking the difference between actually being in your wetsuit and out there in the ocean versus watching it on TV.
Mm.
So there's kind of an interesting reverse thing that goes on, because as we go deeper into heart space and we experience the collective, there is this, suddenly there's whales and dolphins. There's this wonderful collective connection, and we have that on a certain level. And what I'm aware of is that, what I was contemplating as we were going there is, how does that fit in to ownership of our individual form?
Mm.
So the reason to have a body, as opposed to not have a body, is that we get to experience this deliciousness of physical reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's the experience of heart space is like the experience of being non-physical, which is ecstatic. It is joyous. You feel your magnificence. It is a oneness of all. It is being enveloped in an ocean of love. And the uniqueness of being in form is you get to have this physical experience of the sunlight on your face, the brisk wind of, fall, the crisp fall in the air kind of thing, the taste of chocolate, a good hot bubble bath. All those things are really unique and wonderful about being an individual form. And so there's value, I feel, in being both in heart space and connected on this collective level that we're having, and of ownership of your body. And something I've noticed when I've been upgrading my tools and techniques, that my form of embodiment is different than it used to be, because my old techniques were kind of like dial-up. And so accessing the cosmic internet was kind of slow and clunky. But it's like gravity would increase and you would feel the density of the body more. And so you could get really stuck in the pain and discomfort of it. And what I notice now when I do my consciousness techniques is that they're much more quick, simple, and effortless, and I have a very sharp focus of being in form, and the pain is gone. So I don't have all the language. This is new information for me. I don't have all the language to talk about the reconciliation, but I can see why a lot of people don't want to be anchored in their form because of the pain and discomfort that it has, and that it's much more lovely and delicious to just be consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a deepness here. There's a peacefulness here. And we want to invite you, the listener, to allow yourself to notice that. What comes to mind in your sharing, Joan, was how those of us who do this for a living or as a way of being, we allow ourselves to notice information. And I think a lot of times, people who aren't in this focus don't. And that's why this is always, it's fun and it's helpful to go to see someone who does. And I think what we're wanting to share with people is that it's just within yourself. If you allow yourself to notice something different, if you allow yourself to be present, if you allow yourself and you have the time to notice what's already there, but in a way that you haven't been allowing yourself to notice it. Because to notice it means you're going to have to think differently. You're going to have to feel differently. And so we become convenient for others, and we are the mechanism for them to notice themselves in how they operate. Yeah. We were looking forward to seeing what would show up, in holding this as our focus.
So there was an interesting comment about being convenient for others and the mechanism for them. Say a little bit more about that. That was an interesting comment.
Well, as I sit here and hold this focus, I think about all the different ways and people we go to see, or I have maybe in the past, worked with people, and I have people who come to see me, which I'm always grateful and appreciative of, because, all right, I allow myself to notice where they're not feeling comfortable, or they just know something's going on, and they haven't got the skill set or the awareness or the technique or however they've got it set up for them to notice for themselves. And so I've debated over the years when people said, I see angels and I do this kind of stuff, and I'm like, okay, is that a separate alien? An alien here in the reference is anything outside of oneself. Okay. It doesn't have to be extraterrestrial aliens, though it could be, certainly. Was that something outside of a projection of me that was out there holding the information, and I gave it that form and that name, and it was a different way of experiencing my own power. And that's kind of changed over the years as I realized that I am consciousness and come more in alignment with that, and realize that there's all different kinds of forms of energy can take forms. It doesn't necessarily have to be something I'm generating. It's something that I'm observing around me, and how we do that.
That is, it does, and it reminds me of, the old way of looking at things. And so, for instance, like my old training was very, in your body, out of your body, us, them, if anybody in your reality could invade your space, which made it really hard to fall in love because, you have to merge in order to be in love. So, so there was a very sort of, in, out, us, them. And so as you were talking, I was, shifting my perspective. What I was realizing is creating this reality is consciousness. So I create this reality as consciousness down to the smallest detail. You create this reality as consciousness down to the smallest detail. Everyone creates reality as consciousness down to the smallest detail. And the other people that show up in the reality, yes, they're a creation of your consciousness, and you out there listening doesn't mean that you're not real, doesn't mean that we're not real, but in your reality, you're creating hearing this, you're creating the person that you're interacting with. And so, if you're creating yourself to be a channel and creating the being, creating a being, that is what you're creating in your storyline. And though honestly, I think when you start to operate as consciousness, you don't need the middleman.
I think that's the key, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we've really developed an industry of middlemen.
Right. Other people are experts and you're not. And
yes. And this is all this power structure stuff. Yes. Right? If we heard from the beginning that, boy, you have all your answers, it's just a matter of finding the right vehicle for it to be, wouldn't life be different for all of us? Right? We don't have to look for the authority figure or we learn how to appreciate the authority figure and when our own authority takes over.
Right.
And being congruent in that. Yeah, you're very right on about that. I do want to share with our listeners, the way this works for Joan and I is that we're really tracking being in this field. This is real. So it doesn't always come like this verbal acuity that just flows. You're gonna pick up where we are registering and monitoring, tracking, and allowing information to be present. And so it's a matter of shifting focus and what comes into view or into feeling or embodiment in some way. It catches our awareness. And so I can really feel in this, and maybe because the show is about focusing on channeling, I want to invite you to really let go and be in this step with us.
What do you mean by letting go?
Well, you and I do this all the time, right? And the letting go, I think, is allow yourself to drop the veil. We use the term veil a lot is out of older traditions. There's this reality and then there's the other realities. And so maybe what I'm asking them, inviting them to do is drop the veil just a little bit because life goes on and you've got things to do. But if this was real, that you were in this field of heart, that you were accessible to this wonderful sea of potential here, that you were in that wetsuit, and yet you were observing yourself in the wetsuit. And feel how information is available. And then notice, do you see an angel over there? Do you see somebody you haven't seen a long time ago? Information is really present. And it's like this expansive emptiness. There's nothing empty about it. It's just filled with information. And information is my term for things so I don't get stuck on labels. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
Yeah, so jumping in on what you said there too, it's like when you operate as consciousness, you have the option of interacting with angels, of interacting with devas, with interacting with saints. You can have a team of unseen help to manage your business or to provide qualities that you might like to be present in your life. You can play on that level, and they get to be real in this game. You don't need to give up space of seniority because you have your own inner authority with that. So you don't need to let them drive the car, but you can have a team, an interactive team. They're your virtual assistants.
Right. You don't have to hold that you're powerless or less powerful, because you have invited energy to show up. And depending upon your mindsets, that and your biases, perceptual biases, and self as consciousness that you've kind of live within, and your discernments there. If you go to this place, this sense of consciousness, you notice that, is more the feeling than, oh my God, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean, Joan? It's more of a, oh, look at that. There's no judgment of this is going to hurt, this is going to be bad, this is going to be that, unless it's more in the tense, ooh, that might hurt, but that's okay, I'll get through it.
It's more coming from a sense of wonderment and curiosity.
Yeah,
and
really.
When I approach this as a master athlete of this kind of sport, it's also you're preoccupied with getting hurt. Of course, you're also smart enough not to get too hurt about jumping that in there. But so you look at the powerlessness that you're operating from if you are reacting from fear or anticipation of pain. That's operating as your wetsuit and not you as the diver kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and all of us embody this in our skill sets in a myriad of ways. There's many different people as there are. There's different, levels of skill and different things. And we're not poo-pooing any of it. What we're looking at is how, in between those visits, how you can hear yourself in your truth and inviting yourself to go, oh, well, if I could get bigger than my little self here, and I could access my guardian angels, and it might be a guardian troll, I mean, that's the fun part of all this, is, it's when you invite information to show up and take a form, and what that form might be. And we're all like, oh, well, that sounds really nice. And then you get this guy over here and you go, huh. And it's like, that's the fun part of consciousness, and how it plays with us as us. And, I think, so we invite the realities where you're enjoying yourself. And if it's the reality of well-being that, you can feel yourself having fun, what would that be like? Would someone show up? Would an energy show up? And I have to offer, so often, I experience information that is non-human. And, it doesn't have a human reference. And so a person has a hard time perhaps with something that they're sensing about. And it's like, oh, well, that's because it's beyond your sense of reference. And so we'll just allow it to be, and let's see what happens. And, we can play with it that way. And, I think as we get more people, we get more sensing, the world's an interesting place. Consciousness is leaping.
So are you talking about like 100th monkey syndrome when you're saying getting more people, more sensing?
Could be, but also physically we have more people on the planet sensing things, right? Yeah, and more humans. We have more humans.
Yeah, depending on how you view the hologram. But in the storyline, it's like in the storyline, there's you and I sitting here in the Northwest, and in the storyline, there's X number of people in your city and X number of people in my city, and that's, but what I've come to realize is that every story about anything, the Pleiadians, reptilian race, aliens and Donald Trump, they're all stories in the storyline. And it's all within the hologram. And as consciousness, we expand, we're beyond the hologram, we're outside of the hologram, and that's where directionals don't work at all.
Right.
It's
and maybe
awareness of
some
consciousness.
of that non-human references that I was talking about. It's maybe outside the hologram.
And it doesn't mean aliens, Janet's not necessarily channeling aliens, but you could charge a lot if you did.
Really.
But the non-physical.
That voice from the 6th, 7th Galaxy Gallery, the gallery over there. Right. Definitely the gallery.
So maybe non-physical besides just non-human. Non-physical.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not talking about, parrots. or sheep. Bad joke.
Yeah, we were watching, at Morgan Freeman, great show about the wormhole. I don't know, it's on the Science Channel or something. And they were talking about that, different ways that we perceive. And I was like, yeah, right on. That's the way I noticed it too. There's science saying, there's things out there we just can't tag. and it doesn't mean they're not there. Just means there are different ways that you experience frequencies and vibrations and information, and how much we might be missing, how much is present with us that we don't notice because we're kind of like dogs in that we don't have that range. Right?
Oh, dogs have a greater range than we do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're not like dogs, so we're missing stuff because the dog can, animals can resonate.
But I don't think dogs perceive colors in the same spectrum.
Right. So maybe there's a different there, right? There's different ways to experience information is pretty much what I'm talking about. And how much we miss, how much we think, the human form is the absolute, when, I don't know if I could outbeat a bloodhound. If you needed help, you need the bloodhound.
Well, and I use that same analogy in that when you are operating as consciousness, it does bring a heightened awareness. And when you're around people who are not operating as consciousness, it's a little bit like being an opera singer around deaf people or a master artist around, blind people. And they cannot perceive the high notes or the myriad of colors that you're perceiving.
Well, and follow that. So there's the bloodhound who has the scent.
Yes,
so
and
I don't have
30 seconds or less.
I don't have the same scent ability, but I can use my other skills to find that person. And that's what's fun. Right.
I'm using my sensing skills of time and space. We have to stop for a commercial break, but stay tuned because we're talking about channeling other energies versus channeling yourself and bloodhounds in a great state of grace. We'll be right back.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's Conscious with Joan and Janet at gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet. We are talking about channeling other energies versus channeling yourself, and we left it on the note about bloodhounds, and I can't remember why.
Different skill sets that we'd use to do the same thing.
Sensing energies and being opera singers versus being
right
or something.
So if we just notice, everyone, just notice how you experience information, skills, and I'm impressed that
deep sigh.
Yeah, that it's quiet out there, which is nice. I think everything's listening.
Everybody is humming. They're humming.
Yeah, I'm not getting anyone showing up. In groups so often, or we get all kinds of things that show up because there's a group of people and we each are bringing our stuff. And so often energies will come in and visit, and we'll be talking with someone and all of a sudden their father shows up. And how do we know it's their father showing up? Is because we have this open awareness that if dad needs to show up, dad can show up. And, frequently the person whose dad shows up doesn't have awareness till we bring it to their attention, and then they realize that feeling, well, they've had that before. So dad's been present before, and they just didn't have a way to say, oh, that's dad. Okay. So, we see a lot of changes for people when they start to be able to acknowledge, oh, that's what that is, right? And then you can start to get crafty and make sure, see if it can happen again, kind of thing. So.
Well, when what you're talking about, that to me is being aware that at this level of consciousness, at this level of heart space, we're all still connected. And so nobody is ever lost. Mm-mm. And, so if somebody passes, a loved one that has passed, they're still there. They're just not physically
accessible. Death has nothing to do with it. Yeah, really.
And I have to say, I did have somebody once saying, but, my mother was a mess and I don't want to have any connection with her. And so you don't have to have connection with beings you don't want to have connection with, but I would also offer the possibility that once they passed, that the essence of who they are is you can have a relationship with them that was not possible in the physical.
And they can transform.
Yes.
Both of you can transform. And it's us being able to relate to them in their different experience that transforms them, right? I mean, that's what's fun and fascinating about all this is we think, we had an experience of an individual when they were here. And that was totally subject to your interpretation of it. They had that too. And so when there's no longer this, face-to-face in-person issue, all of a sudden that other stuff shows up that was being caught in the face-to-face. So now the face-to-face is in a whole different context, and you can see the humanity, and you can see what was driving them, and you can see how they go, oh, I'm sorry. I mean, that happens so often, is that there's oh, I'm sorry, coming from a very sincere place. And that's just so delightful.
Yeah, somebody who would never apologize in physical form. And because that energy is different. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of things we want to share with people about what's coming up and all. So how are we with this topic today and about completing the topic, but you can stay in heart space? What do we want to tell folks about that?
Stay in heart space.
There we go. So
you don't have to do anything. It's there.
Right. We used to take people out of heart space and come to street level, and then when we thought, why do that? You can keep this lovely feeling for as long as you want. So it's okay to drive and operate heavy machinery. And, if you're at work, you're not going to suddenly put on a Hawaiian shirt and go see the Bobs and stop doing your TPS reports. But you can it might transform your feeling of work. You can just have this lovely, delightful heart space.
Yeah.
I want to let folks know who our guest is next week. I'm shifting my perspective to September 7th. Our guest is going to be Sonia Barrett, and she is the author of The Holographic Canvas, The Fusing of Mind. And her other book is, no, it's not. I think that's not 2 books. I think it's the whole thing. The Holographic Canvas, The Fusing of Mind and Matter, and a Journey of Possibilities. Try that again. Holographic Canvas, Fusing of Mind and Matter, and a Journey of Possibilities.
Channel. Okay. Self.
Right. The ground, focus, anchor. And she's published Health, An Inside Job, and Outside Disease. Outside Business, and she's also the executive producer of the Business of Disease. So that's Sonia Barrett. We're going to be talking to her next week. Her website is The Business of Disease. I'm watching time and space expand here. So her insights and cutting edges supported by quantum physics, and her work bridges the gap between science and spirituality. And we are going to be talking more with her next week on the 7th. I want to remind people that you can get information about us after the show at consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. You can listen to our podcasts. You can access our websites. You can access the blogs that Janet and I write. You can learn about our meetups that we have around the Puget Sound and in the Portland area, and learn more about our sessions. We're also on Facebook and Twitter, and you can subscribe to us on YouTube, and all that information's on our website. But we have a Labor Day special for you listeners. You can get a free email session from us. Email us your specific question and your name and location, and just your brief specific about the question that you have, and send it to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com, and we will send you a free email session on it.
And while you're busy writing, write to us about your experiences of channeling, what your own experiences might be. No?
Well, leave comments. Leave comments on
comments
Facebook.
About this. Yeah.
Leave comments on Facebook and all, but for that email, just make it clear and succinct, and just the question, just the facts, ma'am.
Oh yeah, about that.
Email
us
us
something else. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so don't mess it up with the time and space and boundaries. If you would like to have a closer and more intimate communication with us, come to our Conscious Conference Call. It's on September 15th. It's at 7 p.m. Pacific. We do these on the 3rd Thursday of every month, and this month it's September 15th at 7 p.m. Pacific. Next Saturday, September 10th, so after this week, and then it's September 10th from 1 to 3, I am going to be at Psychic Awakenings on Queen Anne. I am offering a workshop called Deeper Consciousness, Tools for Transformation. If you are feeling strange shifts and changes going on and want to know what's happening and what to do about it, I will let you know about consciousness accelerating, expanding, and you might be experiencing things breaking down in your life. You might be experiencing overwhelm or frustration. You might have major issues coming up in health, relationships, work, and more. Well, I will tell you how to upgrade your practices and techniques from spiritual dial-up to Wi-Fi and have some really specific, miraculous results.
It's all about you guys. We offer all these different ways to help you in how you're experiencing life, experiencing yourself as consciousness, playing at life, and what it is that you want to enjoy about life. It's all about life. It's all about consciousness. It's all about the blend of the two and outcomes and how we can help you. And so please keep us in mind, and it's been delightful to be with everyone again.
It's been lovely, and all of you, regardless of when you're listening to this, no matter whether it's now or in the future, there is no time or space as consciousness, so you helped co-create this show today. And we would like to thank you for that, and tune in next week, same time, same channels. You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan.
And I'm Janet Barrett. Thank you so very much, everyone. Have a great week.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. you energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.